the Cotati City Council and the successor agency to the former Cotati Community Redevelopment Agency for this Tuesday, September 26th, 2017. May I please have a roll call?
Councilmember Skillman?
Here.
Councilmember Deloso?
Here.
Mayor Harvey?
Here.
Vice Mayor Landman?
Here.
Councilmember Moore?
Here.
Thank you. Would you all please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Okay, with that, thank you. We will move to the approval of the minutes and notice of waiving of reading of all resolutions and ordinances introduced and or adopted under this agenda.
Move to approve.
I'd second. I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Let that show a 5-0 vote. With that, we will move on to the announcements. The City of Cotati has special open office hours on Monday evenings from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. by appointment in the Community Development Department at City Hall as part of its Cotati Open for Business program. This program provides personalized assistance and information to developers, current Cotati business owners, and those interested in starting a new business within the city. The Rohnert Park Cotati Regional Library hosts events for all ages, including art exhibits, book clubs, and children's programs. All events are free and open to the public. For more information, call the library at 584-9121 or visit www.sonomalibrary.org. The Cotati Historical Society Museum is open regularly the second Tuesday of each month from 5 to 7, Saturdays from 1 to 4, and by appointment. For more information, call 707-794-0305. Citizens interested in receiving City of Cotati community alerts via text or email are encouraged to sign up at nixle.com, Nixle.com. The city offers a variety of recreation programs for all age. See details on the web at cotati.city.org. Wednesday, October 4th is National Coffee with a Cop Day. The Cotati Police Department invites residents to join Cotati police officers for a cup of coffee and casual conversation at Starbucks in Cotati from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. And last, we have an addition. The Sonoma County Agricultural Preservation and Open Space District is developing the Vital Lands Initiative, which is a comprehensive plan that will guide the district's work for the next 15 years. They will be holding public meetings. There are about 6 of these, but the first one and closest for us would be Thursday, October 12th from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. at the Petaluma Veterans Memorial Building. And with that, we will move on to presentations, and we have an update from Isabel from Sonoma State University. Welcome. Thank you for joining us.
So at Sonoma, we've been really busy. It's been a great start of the school year. We're having a lot of fun and meeting everyone and welcoming all the new students. Upcoming events that we have, this Friday we have a pep rally. We are versing Chico and I think volleyball and soccer. And so we have a pep rally at 4 on the soccer fields, and then following it will be the volleyball game. In October, we have Sonoma SERS, which is hosted by JUMP, which is our volunteer program of AS. And so there will be different teams. Anyone who wants to hold a team can. I think you can have up to 18 players, and you guys go and volunteer, and JUMP will put you somewhere in the community to go help clean up or do different things. But also on that same weekend, CSSA, which is the California State Student Association, every single CSU has a representative who is a voting member on this board. They are actually coming to Sonoma State. They'll be staying in Rohnert Park, and then they'll have their monthly meeting here. And then on, I think Saturday night, we'll be all going to Mi Ranchito to eat. So if you're going out to eat, I wouldn't recommend there because it'll be about a lot of college students, but it'll be lots of fun, and I'm excited because you get free food that way. And then also October 14th, that night is our Midnight Madness, which is our welcoming to the basketball team. This Saturday is the beach cleanup. Jump is also hosting. I believe they're going up to Bodega. October 21st, we are having an alternate break, also hosted by Jump. They do a lot of different community service events throughout the year. The alternative break, they don't tell us where it's at, but it will have something to do with animals, is all they've told us. So it'll be a whole weekend community service thing. Within AS, I currently serve on Legislative Affairs Board. Our current project is voter registration and registering. Our goal is 250 students to register to vote. We're doing different things. We're working on a competition between our residential living CSAs and seeing how many residents they can register. We're also doing tabling out in the quad during lunchtime and getting as many people possible. We're also working on Good Neighbor Program, which is a pamphlet to the students who live off campus. We're working on different tactics and ways to reach out to their neighbors so that we build good relationships where they're staying. And then that is all.
Wow, that's quite a lot. Any questions from anyone? Comments?
No, the only question I had, thank you, Isabel, was, and I don't know if you have this information, do you know what the percentage of registered voters are amongst the students?
I do not know the percentage. I do know that a lot aren't currently registered to vote within Sonoma County. They're more registered back home. I know we do have a higher percentage than a lot of CSUs, but we're still working on to get as many as possible.
Thank you.
I just had a quick question. Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
What was the date of the first volunteer event in October?
October 14th is our
14th.
Sonoma Serves.
Okay, thank you.
I'm really glad to hear that you guys are working on a Good Neighbor program. Unfortunately, I've seen a lot of stuff out on Nextdoor about, not everyone behaves in being neighbors. So I think that's really a good thing to be proactive in that, and I'm glad to see that you guys are taking that initiative to make sure that people that are living in neighborhoods practice the proper rules. So this was an awesome report. I'm so happy that you've come to let us know what's happening, and really appreciate if you would continue to kind of let us know
I'll be here.
what's going on. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, any changes to the agenda this evening?
No changes, Mayor.
Okay. Then we will move on to citizens' business and public comment for the consent calendar. Any member of the public wishing to speak to the council on any item listed on the consent calendar or any matter not listed on the agenda that are within the subject matter jurisdiction of the council may do so at this time. Pursuant to the Brown Act, the council is not allowed to consider issues or take action on any item not listed on the agenda during this period. Pursuant to City Council Policy 2016-1, comments of any member of the public are normally restricted to a total of 3 minutes in length per person for matters not on the agenda, and a total of 3 minutes per person in length for any and all items on the consent calendar. The mayor may extend the time limit for a reasonable time where a disability accommodation has been requested. With that, do we have any speaker cards? Seeing none, would anyone? Yes, Lori.
The last few council meetings, your public input has been 0 and a month ago, and 0.66%, less than 1% of the time was spent on the public speaking. It was everybody who had a role. And I'm tired of this being a show. You need to deal with the realities of what is happening in this city. You need to tell the full what is happening. You need to respect me a whole hell of a lot more. I don't deserve to be treated like I have been. I've been ridiculed. I've had my words put out of. You don't say Lori does it, but you always take your words and my words and you use them against me. In a way they weren't intended, and I'm really tired of that. I'm just tired of having a target on my back mostly. And I don't just because I'm not in favor with you guys, it's not okay to treat me this way. The other thing is, and you did disrespect me by last meeting. I was sick. Had just been I had gone to the ER later that night, but I came in and I told Lauren there was no audio on the video. I was shushed by Lauren for speaking too loud with my whisper, and then you guys just went on. You could have. This is the public record of this meeting. You knew that there was no sound, and you did not stop the meeting and deal with it. And that is total disrespect to my efforts and me. And George said, actually it was a month ago, but George said it great last week. You need to respect us and respect our contribution. Yes, I disagree with you, but you disrespect my contribution almost every time I come up here, and I'm tired of it. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. George?
Furthermore, to elaborate on what Lori just said, just because council members come back and state things and trying to put them on the record does not necessarily make them true. I've heard council members try to put things on the record that were complete lies. So that doesn't help anything. For the benefit of the audience and the folks at home tonight, my name is George Barrich. I'm a former city councilman here who served with honor and distinction. I'm probably the last honest city leader that has served on this city council. There've been a bunch of hacks and liars and appointees since I left office, but I digress. Last city council meeting, we dealt with the issue of Bert Lathrop's shipping container down at the Northern Gateway on private property, mind you. And we had a little bit of a discussion about that. But I want to quote Mr. Moore, Councilmember Moore, who said, the container looked like shit. Those were his words, Mayor, and you're mayor. And I expect a little bit of order here when it comes to that kind of profanity. And you let him slide on that. Said the container looked like shit. Well, let me ask you, Mr. Moore, there's 2 shipping containers on the property of St. Joseph's Catholic Church. Do those look like shit? There's also a shipping container next to Burger King on the west side that's been there for years. Does that look like shit? There's visual blight all around this town, council, that looks like shit. Why you're singling out a Republican who had a shipping container on private property, who was not duly notified by the city, was not called on the telephone, and berated here by the city council, is just unfathomable. I should have just put Bert on the phone. I should have just called him and put him up to the microphone and let you guys apologize to him personally. Now, Damien, our city manager, said 6 months ago he was going to look into how we, the city of Cotati, could get our own public channel on local cable. I've come back and tried to remind you that he has promised that to the mayor, who specifically asked for it, 4 times, and we've yet to get that in a report. We also don't have an answer from the city manager why the city of Cotati is not charging customers of the electrical vehicle charging stations a value, charging them money for using these charging stations day and night. That was not part of the staff report. That was not part of the program for the taxpayers to fit the bill for electric vehicle customers in the city of Cotati. And we need a follow-up report. This isn't rocket science. And what about our honorary mayor? We haven't seen one of those since May. Have we duly canceled the program? Is it finally dead? School's back in session. In a few weeks, the excuse will be Halloween. The next excuse will be holidays, then the Christmas. So I assume, let's just assume for safety that the project has been canceled.
Are you
almost finished, ma'am? I'd also like to find out what the follow-up program is for our Cotati homeless parking project. Now, you said you guys were going to do something about this, and we have no program in place. It's now September. coming up on October, and the cold weather, Mayor, all I want to say is that you promised a program for the people that are out here sleeping in the freezing cold, and I'd like to hear about it. I'd like to hear what your ideas are. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else wishing to speak on citizens' business? Seeing none. Excuse me, one moment, please. Anyone else wishing to speak on citizens' business? Okay, anyone wishing to speak on consent? I wanted to make sure that there was no one else that wanted citizens' business.
The one I'm questioning on the consent calendar is the extension to the Lasker Knolls subdivision tentative map. It looks like it was done in 2004. And this is a pattern you have of, you take these maps that are really old, that are over a decade old, and you keep saying that the conditions haven't changed, that all that. And so it's getting old that every project gets a tentative map extension. They need to be going through all the new regulations, all the new mitigation efforts, all that, instead of getting extensions for every time there's a need. It shouldn't be automatic that they have it. It should be per individual project, and a lot has changed since 2004. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else wishing to speak on the consent items? Seeing none, I will close public comment. City Manager, would you address the public television? Because I think we've had a discussion on that.
Sure. So we do have a combined public access channel with Rohnert Park. After council meetings, we provide the video to Rohnert Park where the feed is, and then they feed it to the public access station.
And I believe that we did notify the owner of the container, and we have signed receipt letters that came back. Unfortunately, it appears that whoever it was that was his receiver of that information did not pass that information on to the gentleman.
It's correct that he was duly noticed for all the legal requirements.
Okay. And the homeless, we're trying to see what we can work out. I know that Damien attended something with the county to try and see what we can do with that. It's a problem. So we're trying to see what we can accomplish and what we can't accomplish. Let's see. Anything else that you'd like to address?
I'll just add that the honorary mayor is coming this next meeting on the 10th of October. It was the soonest the school district could get a student since school started.
Okay, and that's good. Anybody have any comments?
Madam Mayor, if I
Yes.
may?
Yes, you may.
I believe the charging stations out here on School Street have credit card readers so that you can pay for the electricity that you purchase. So there's no electricity being given away for free. So I wanted to clarify that because I went up and looked at those the other day.
So they do have RFID readers, and station owners can set fees on chargers, and across the county, it's all over the place. You know, there's been ongoing discussions countywide, especially among public chargers, as to what a uniform rate should be for charging. And right now, it's kind of all over the place with different chargers. There's different rates at this point in time. But the hope is, as it becomes more widely adopted, that at least within the county, we'll all agree on a single rate for chargers. But as of now, there's been no common rate.
It would seem that would make it easier for folks, because we wouldn't want people, being charged one amount here, one amount, so I can understand that. Okay, any other comments?
And if I may, Madam Mayor, I
Yes.
believe that 2 meetings ago that meeting is now available as a podcast and has audio, if I'm correct on that?
There was one meeting about a month, I guess it was about a month ago, where the software vendor that does our web streaming had a software update, and there was an audio problem, not just with us, but with all of their clients. And it was immediately fixed after the meeting, but that one meeting did not have audio on it.
So even in the webcast?
I believe the webcast had audio, but the saved version didn't, is my understanding. No? Okay, maybe. So I guess neither did.
Okay.
Yeah. But definitely the version that's on the website now is video only, just because that was what was captured
Okay,
by the encoder at that meeting.
thank you.
And I will also add, though, that minutes are the record of the meeting. The video is a convenience copy for people to view.
So I guess that was a question that I was going to ask our city attorney. Are we required to have that as the public record, or the meeting minutes, is that what's required as the public record?
The meeting minutes are the official record of your meetings. Most cities do maintain an audio version, primarily, well, partly for the convenience of the public, but also for the convenience of the clerk or whomever is preparing the minutes, so can get names correct and that type of thing, but it's not a requirement.
So in it not being a requirement, there wouldn't be a requirement for us to discontinue a meeting because that was not functional?
That's correct. You would not be required to adjourn your meeting.
Okay, thank you for that.
And, pardon me, I just wanted to clarify an issue regarding the description of the dumpsters and our newly revamped gateway to the community. It did look like garbage, and we in no way do an abatement on a property because of a political affiliation. Well, that's my statement, and that's the truth. So, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Just one quick question going back to the question of our vendors for digitizing and transmitting our meetings. Basically, there's the one we have, and there's Granicus is about the only, there's basically two vendors that do this for the government field, right?
Yeah, certainly in California, you either see Granicus or Excella. We have Excella.
Yeah. No, I know we have some problems a few times with ours, but I've tried to use Granicus numerous times for watching other meetings over the years when I've needed to for one reason or another, and they have, I'll just say this, they have problems too. I would think a little bit more actually, so it is problematic though. I would love to see this, but I think it's something that everybody is suffering with that has either of these two companies, and I believe anybody that transmit probably does, so.
Well, maybe someday there'll be a new player in the market and we can.
Well, certainly the opening's
That's
there for
something
anybody who's
else.
enterprising, there we go. Thank you, Mr. City Manager.
Anything else? All right, can we move on now? Consent calendar?
I'll move to approve items A, B, and C.
I'll second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Let that show a 5-0 vote. Direction on future agenda items?
Nothing from me, thank you.
That's right.
No? Okay, no direction on that. Then we will move on to the regular agenda, and we have a discussion of potential skate park in Cotati. We have a staff report.
Yes, thank you, Mayor, members of the council. So at a prior city council meeting in early August, Councilmember Skillman requested a future agenda item on this topic. Therefore, it's on the agenda tonight. And to set up some of the context for the informational discussion tonight, the staff report has the summary of past discussions on skate parks in Cotati, and I'll just touch on them real quick. But basically, in the record, in 2000, there was a vision plan that was created that, the first mention of skate parks comes up. There was a temporary skate park that was created shortly after that in 2000. And then the city embarked on the Civic Center master planning process, which was a master plan for this corporate center, the City Hall, and what would eventually become the police station and the Civic Center there. And the Civic Center Master Plan was adopted in 2002, and right after that, there was some ordinance provisions that were codified to control skating, skateboarding in the city, just to require certain protective gear and set up some other basic parameters for people that skateboard in the city. And the staff report has a lot of the details about what's happened with the Civic Center Master Plan, but I'll briefly say that there's an attachment to the staff report that shows the vision conceptually from a plan perspective. And the skate park element was proposed to be basically behind the future police station, which would today be the police station. And so what ended up happening is some elements of the city hall were done. So the HVAC and some electrical work. There was an overhead utility line that went from the Civic Center across East School Street that got undergrounded. There was electrical upgrades within the Civic Center that happened. The Katati Room facade got improved. The police station got built. So there was elements of it that got implemented. But then, well, I think the recession happened, and sort of the rest is history. Everything kind of stopped at that point. But that's in Katati. That's where the discussion is, at least where it has been left off from past years. And I think you may know that there's other skate parks around the county. In Santa Rosa, Windsor, Healdsburg, Sonoma, Sebastopol, Monte Rio, they all have skate parks. And they're generally built through a combination of significant community, fundraising, donations, grants. Oftentimes the city or the county will participate as well in the construction of it. But it's typically and I think they tend to function best when they're sort of grassroots projects and not just something that a government entity just plops down somewhere. They tend to get better use if there's community support behind them. And the last thing I'll just say before I turn it over to the council for discussion is that in 2008, calendar year 2008, we're going to be updating, or we'll be looking at our park master plan. And I would suggest, as we discuss it tonight, that would be a good venue to get more official community input on skate parks and what they think of them relative to other priorities. And, I'm putting together a cohesive citywide plan on how to move individual pieces forward. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Did you mean 2018?
That's what I meant if I didn't say that, yes.
You said 2008. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
right, 2018,
Happened.
sorry.
All
I dropped the one.
Just checking. So, questions? Yes.
Through the city manager and city attorney, back in the day when it seemed like skate parks were the talk of every city council meeting, there were issues with liability, and a lot of cities were very hesitant to put skate parks in for a variety of reasons. And I'm just wondering where that particular issue lies these days, knowing that there's several of them in the county.
Thank you. Well, there is a specific immunity provided to cities in the government code for what's known as hazardous recreational activity. And the Health and Safety Code has deemed skateboarding as a hazardous recreational activity, and it provides cities with immunity from liability provided that they comply with a few conditions in the statute with which Katati already complies. It has to do with requiring that safety equipment be worn and that there be signage posted requiring safety equipment. Those are the two basic requirements. And so as long as those conditions are met, in the event that there is injury, there's a statutory immunity for the city.
Okay, thank you.
Hmm?
That's all I had.
Okay. All right, then I will open this up for public comment. Anyone wish? Yes, George?
The one aspect of Damien's report that I think was left out is that a number of Cotati citizens, including former Mayor Harold Berkemeyer and members of the Rotary, did construct a temporary skateboard park over at the basketball courts made out of wood. Some of you probably know more about it than I do, but we had lively discussions about that too. So maybe Damien can refer to us or refresh our memories on what happened there. I've been a proponent of these skateboard parks myself. When I brought this up in 2009 as something I wanted to put on the agenda, I was shot down. Matter of fact, I wasn't able to put anything on the agenda, but I digress. But it's nice to see it come back. But that was before I learned what bad financial shape Cotati was in and is in today. We're looking at a city now that rates most of the conditions of our streets from poor, a D, to an F failure. Most of our streets. And I think it does beg the question, and it will have to come to the council on deciding priorities, whether we want decent and safe streets over a skateboard park, or how fast do we want to repair our streets and other parts of our infrastructure over hazardous recreational facilities. It's no surprise to anyone that this building is not earthquake retrofit. According to former police chief Bob Stewart, it's inherently dangerous, and the city will not and refuses to address this. We have no capital funds available right now saving up for a future city hall, future rec hall, senior center, corporate yard. Any additional real estate or building improvements don't seem to be in our funding, although there is a small capital improvement line item in the budget which will never reach the needs of our city's building and capital improvements at the rate that they are deteriorating. And now remember that. Even Damien has brought this up. At the rate that these buildings and the roads are deteriorating, our budget cannot keep up. Your high tax policies have failed. They're not coming in with the goods required to keep this city functioning at an acceptable level. So I want that entered into the discussion too. You just can't keep trying to keep up with the Joneses, with these other cities, when you don't have the funds, don't have the business know-how to attract business to Cotati and run the city's finances responsibly.
Thank you for your comments. Yes, Lori?
Continuing on George's line, the project is for $500,000. I don't believe there was anything identified by Damien as a funding source for it. I think I remember fundraising and possibly grants, but there's no specific fund set up for it. We don't have very much of a recreation program other than most of the camps are out of, the kids can't just go to the recreation department. It's $10 an hour, $12 an hour for their classes. There's not a free place for the kids to go. A skateboard park too is also what happens when it rains. The kids can't do much. It'd be more appropriate to have a teen center rather than a skateboard park. I've also sent you all an email, and I know it's been passed out. It looks like on the map of the scheme that when the police building was done, the parking went to the back lot of the park of the police station. And it's now fenced off. There's a bike lane on West Sierra, and then the next house, there's the police station, there's the field where you want to put the skate park, and then there's a residential home for the disabled that my paratransit bus stops at all the time, and they already have trouble getting into that spot because there's a very limited little road up the hill. So if you are going to do a skateboard park, it needs to not be there, because that would be so disruptive there's no parking for their staff, there's no, having group home and skateboard park next to each other wouldn't work. And so, but there's other places, Hellman Putnam has a lot of room. The one behind Oliver's, I don't remember that one, but anyways, yeah, thanks.
Thank you for your comments. Yes. Good evening.
Hello. I think that a skate park that is in Cotati would very much like help, because I know there's been some complaints about skateboarders just like outside of businesses and stuff. So with a skate park, it'd be really useful for the people who don't like just skating outside, and it would help a lot of people. So could be useful for like, yeah.
Thank you for your comments. Good job. Yes.
I didn't realize there's open comment, so I didn't.
Oh, yes.
But I brought my 2 sons, who are skateboarders. My older son is 15 years old. He goes to Technology High School at the SSU campus, straight A student, really good kid. So I was shocked about 3 weeks ago to be woken up in the middle of the night. Well, it was the middle of the night to me. I go to bed early. By my older son, who said, "The police are here." And so I came downstairs, and Cotati Police Department, it was Corporal Gooden, really good guy, at my door, had brought my son home. And my son was skateboarding here downtown, and it wasn't an appropriate place, and I completely agreed with the police officer, and he was concerned about my son's safety, which I was too. This was about 10:30 at night, and you know, it's just the bar scene there, and that's not where I want him to be either. So, you know, we questioned him about alternatives to where he could be, and there really were no alternatives. And, you know, the business owners don't like them there. The kids are only there because that's where there's like smooth concrete for them. Corporal Gooden had suggested the Veterans Building parking lot, which apparently is just too rough for them. And so hearing that this is a possibility, I'm coming in without any context here and knowing that there was a history to this, but I would very much be in favor of a spot. I mean, as Corporal Gooden said, he's glad that these kids that's all they're doing, you know, and so am I. And if they can have a spot where they could do that safely, it'd be awesome. Thanks.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else wishing to speak on this? Okay, seeing none, I will close public comment on that. Thank you, everyone. There was a comment about the temporary skate park that was in the staff report. It just kind of did get put together. I remember it being there, and I remember people sometimes had to move it when some wanted to play basketball and some wanted to, you know, skateboard. So I do remember that being there for a while. I don't know why it went away. This item tonight is really just a discussion. We're not spending $500,000. Damien did a really good job of going back and pulling the history. So what's in this report is the history. Last time we checked, that's what it was. The plan that's on there is just a plan from the Civic Center plan, park plan, which was done in 2002. As Damien has suggested, we're redoing the park master plan, and so the suggestion is to roll this in with that discussion to see how that fits with the priorities. So this item is not an item that we are taking budget from, no budget from the streets, no budget from anything else. It's just, are we to direct staff to include the consideration of a skate park in when they redo the park master plan? Did I misstate anything there?
No, that's correct.
Okay. All right. so that's kind of where we're at here. That's what tonight is all about. I really appreciate the input, and I do hope that those that are interested, when we do have public input on the park master plan, that we also have input there in determining the what and where and priority and all that. So, questions, comments? This way.
If I could start out, sure.
Sure.
Thank you. So I already had passed on some information to Damien. When I went to the mayors and council members, the California League of Cities did a training in 2015, and there was a group from Spawn Ranch skate parks that came. And one of the great things that they talked about was being involved from the ground level up. So being in the conversations about planning a park, how do we want the skate park to look, talking to people who are going to be using it, what are they looking for? Because they found that when the predominantly teenagers in the area had input and had say and felt like they were being heard, they don't tag it, they don't wreck it, they really make sure other people are respecting it as well because they feel like they've got a buy-in. So that was one of the things that really impressed me about their presentation. I still haven't found the presentation materials, but I did pass on their contact information, and I can always get more information before the parks discussion since we're talking about next year. But anyway, I was really impressed. The Sebastopol one is really nice. I've been there and checked that out. And I'd also looked into the exemptions that our city attorney mentioned as well, because I think that's one of the things. It's as long as you post it and you let people know this is hazardous, then there's an assumption of the risk that happens if they participate. So, and most of the people that I saw at the skate park, even in Sebastopol, the times I've been there with parents, with older siblings, that kind of thing. And so there's always somebody kind of keeping an eye out. And we even saw one guy do this amazing trick and completely eat it and tumbled over, and all the other skaters were like, hey, are you okay? What are we doing? Do you need any help? And he kind of shook it off and was fine. But it's a nice community feeling that you get when you've got people who are interested in the same activities. And everybody who participates in skateboarding, cover your ears. It's also exercise. Shh, don't tell. So anyway, I just think it's a great thing, and if we could bring it to the city, that would be fantastic if we're able to work it in and obviously find funds for it is the main thing. So I'm glad that we're going to have that conversation when we talk about parks. So thank you very much.
John?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, I agree as far as a discussion that this is totally appropriate, like any other topics that any other community members would have once we start to talk about it. And I'm glad that meeting's in early 2018, because if it was 08, we all missed it, unfortunately, so let's move forward with that. But I don't think, I think when we're talking about this, we shouldn't focus on one location. I think we should look at all of the possibilities that are in the city and not just stay in one location. There may be reasons to keep it in a concentrated area, but I mean, all of that will come out through the public process as we're talking about it, and getting you guys to come and talk at those meetings saying, here's why we think this will be, you don't even have to use the word important, you can just say cool, right? And that's really a good thing. We need to hear from everybody. This is really getting into the weeds, but that was an interesting point about, you know, your son skateboarding at 10:30 at night. I'm just kind of thinking wherever this is, my guess is it's going to have some kind of a curfew on it and be locked down at a certain time period, probably before 10:30 at night. That's just a guess. But I think, you know, I don't know, you know, I don't know what kind of activities can be provided at certain times of the day or night for our youth. So that's a tough one. But yeah, again, I totally think that, you know, we'll get community input. We'll have all kinds of people that'll have all kinds of wishes and wants, and we'll do the best that we can with what we can make out of all of that. So, thanks.
John?
I just look forward to the workshops when we look at the master plan for the parks and the public input at those events. I think that'll really help guide us on what we're going to be looking for.
Mark, your turn.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, first of all, I'm going to thank Councilmember Skillman for suggestions bringing this. I think this is a good idea. I think it's well worth adding to our long-term planning to some degree, seeing as we actually have some very basic and minimal beginnings to that planning at least. I personally do like the location. I've often thought if you were going to have a skateboard park, it would be logical to have it by the other sports facilities where we have basketball, where we have the softball, plus centered there, right behind the police station. You're right next to the police station for security. If you're worried about being down by the bars, well, this is the opposite end of the scale. I think it solves that problem pretty well. In terms of parking, it's true. Parking out here on West Sierra is always going to be difficult, but it could be picked up certainly by a school and say, look at where the map looks at this. It looks like it kind of sits right in between, that you could access this from either side. So that might work out pretty well after all. So I like the idea, would like to see it come forward. The only thing that comes to mind is I know we do have some long-term parks already kind of in the queue. We've talked since the late 90s in the general plan at least for having a park on the west side of Cotati, the need for that. I wouldn't want to see that bumped out of the way certainly, nor we have a plan that's actually out trying to get some funding right now for a Laguna Path and headwaters restoration. And that's kind of a big thing that would provide a lot, not just for young people, but people of all ages and use. That would be a big thing. But I would definitely add this to the queue, and we might find a situation where there's some funding that pops up that could specifically fit to this, that might not fit those others. In that case, I would support jumping the queue. Other than that, I like it, would like to see it come forward, and that's the only caveat I add, is I don't want to lose focus on some of the other good plans we have.
Okay. What is the plan for the master park plan? Are we going to have sessions? Are we going to have study sessions? How's that going to work? I just want to make sure that we have an opportunity to obtain that input.
Yeah, so we have a draft scope of work already, but we'd have to, and we're going to be bringing it forward to council to approve the scope and the agreement.
Mm-hmm.
But the draft scope does definitely envision a series of public meetings to get input and, iterations on, first of all, inventory of everything that we have, so it's clear, starting the process, what's out there now, and then a series of public meetings, and then some concept, plans that become part of the master plan, and cost estimates that go along with those things. So that's just would provide the foundation for moving forward on any particular piece of it, and honestly, it makes that's the first step in becoming more successful in getting funding, grant funding or other types of funding of any type. If you've had a community process and you have a prioritized list of things.
And may I also suggest that since a lot of the park facilities are for youth at lots of different age levels, that when we are going to have the public sessions, that we provide that information to the schools, both the high school and Technology High and middle school and Thomas Page, so that we can get that information out there. I know we have our regular ways of getting information out, but that also might get the kids involved and get their input. They might bug their parents to bring them down because their parents are busy and may not notice that we're having a meeting on parks. So that would be my suggestion, but I think it's a good idea, and we'll see where our parks go. I'm excited that we're going to update our park plan. I think this would be a good addition. So do you have everything that you need?
Yeah, no, absolutely, I think so. And I would also just say for the public here tonight, they're more than welcome to leave their contact information with the clerk, and we can make sure that they're included in any noticing that goes out as we start doing this.
Yes.
And thank you, Madam Mayor. Sorry to squeak right into the
That's
door
okay.
here, but one last thing that occurred to me, since you're looking for direction in terms of in an ideal world with funding falling from the heavens perfectly, what I'd like to see for Cotati, what I think would be appropriate and well-used and benefit to everybody in the community, is something along the lines of what the city of Sebastopol has. Just behind the Barlow, I don't know if everybody's seen it. We fell on it by accident walking there one day. It's beautiful. It's a really nice skate park. This is designed by professionals. It's not just a few wood ramps thrown together, complete with splinters. This is really nice. At the same time, it's also designed something for the rest of the community you can use. There's it connects various parts of the communities. It has paths to walk through. There's benches and shady spots to sit, so older people can sit and watch you and really bug the heck out of you. It's actually, seriously speaking, very nice. So I would give that as an example. If we were able to do something, I'd like to see something like that level, ideally, for the community, because that would really long-term bring value for generations of Catawdians.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? More input? All right, so you're all set then, right? With that then, we will move on to city manager's report.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. So first of all, as I think you all know, we had the radar trailer on Old Road Highway near our downtown with informational messages about the implementation of the infraction ordinance, the Wobbler ordinance. And our police have been out there this week ticketing trucks going through our downtown that are off of the designated truck route. Also, I don't know if you've been out, if you've had an opportunity to go out there yet, but the Sunflower tennis courts and pickleball courts are done, and they look really nice. So it's nice to have that fully restored and usable. And we're currently working on replacing the restroom doors and facilities there as well. So very soon that will also be refurbished. And then Cater sidewalk just outside here, City Hall. You see it all formed up. They're planning to pour concrete tomorrow morning, and they're making pretty quick progress on constructing that sidewalk extension from the Civic Center down to the end of the sidewalk on East School Street. And then Cypress Crosswalk. You may have also noticed that the piano bar striping went in on West Sierra, and then the high visibility signs for the crosswalk of West Sierra at Cypress. So that's in as well right now. Shortly, Public Works will be in the Gravenstein Way neighborhood, as well as our contractor, and working on the sidewalk issues, and also getting letters out to all the residents, informing them that we're doing some temporary fixes there, and just informing them of their obligations long term. Once those temporary fixes eventually deteriorate, to repair the sidewalk. So that'll be in the very near future. On development, we had the Village Walk project, the one on East Cotati at Lancaster. They pulled essentially all of their remaining permits, I believe except for 2, where they stage equipment. And so they're busy forming up the foundations for many of the remainder of the lots. And it's been good news there because they continue to be sold before they're done, all those houses. So they're selling quickly. And also last week, the apartments project went to final design review. So that one's that much closer to construction now. And on some recreation news, on Monday, October 9th, which is a holiday for the school district, from 7:30 a.m. to 6 p.m., we have our Camp Cotati PJ party for children on their day off of school, but the parents apparently don't get that same day off. And they can come to our camp to make arts and crafts, play games, and get outside. And it's a great way for families to have a safe place for the children to go while they have to go to work. Friday, October 13th, from 5 to 10 p.m. It's our first parents' night out, and it should be a good night, despite the Friday the 13th. And it's a chance for adults to spend some time together, shopping, eating, or just relaxing, while we give their children a safe place to hang out, play, and have dinner. And this will be the first in a series of Parents' Night Out events taking place throughout the year. And I believe, actually, Sal's donated pizza for that night. So that's always nice to see. And then on October 31st, children and families are invited to stop by City Hall for City Hall-oween from 1:30 to 5:30 p.m. to kick off their trick-or-treating, visit with city staff, and show off their costumes before they get out onto the streets and get a whole ton of candy. So Lastly, we are currently accepting applications for vendors to participate in our annual holiday tree lighting and craft fair event on Friday, December 1st. And I know we already have quite a few people reserved. We're continuing to accept more. And so that's shaping up to be another great event. And then for registering for classes or more information, you always can visit the city website or call Ashley in our rec department at 665-4222 or awilson@cotatiCity.org. That's it. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Question?
No?
Okay, yeah.
First of all, we have this wonderful new technology that allows people to call City Hall and leave a message that goes directly to our email, and you can click and listen to it. And I have a friend, I know his first name, Jim. He's over in Myrtle somewhere. And he calls regularly concerned about speeding, and I just wanted to give you the update that Jim was very pleased with seeing the radar trailers out, as well as the new signs related to that and stuff. And the only question was, there was a hope for seeing some upgraded local patrolling on a more regular basis through the PD, perhaps to help deal with that, particularly in some of the entrances to town and the neighborhoods. And I wonder if we could get an update on that at some point in the future, because I think there's some interest in that in the community.
Other questions? Okay, then we will move on to city council reports. Wendy, do you want to start?
I have nothing this meeting, actually.
Do you want me to skip you for a second? Okay. John? The other John.
We were going to have a Redwood Empire Municipal Insurance Fund meeting, but that has been rescheduled to Halloween in Ukiah. So that should be fun, and that'll be our first meeting with our new director. So that'll be interesting. And then the only other thing I have is the Chamber of Commerce Oktoberfest on October 14th, and we are looking for volunteers if you guys are available, or whomever is available. And that's all I have to report.
Okay. Mark?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. One thing to report, update from Legislative Committee, mayors and council members, Legislative Committee. We discussed previously putting forward a regular legislative scorecard. I just wanted to report back. That was last Friday, adopted unanimously, the concept, and so we'll be putting that together this year. Should be a good thing. I mean, the goals were to provide greater transparency in working with our legislative representatives to help ensure some accountability for actions and votes, making sure they reflect the interests of their constituents, while avoiding the kind of politics and sometimes less constructive actions that can happen with grades and some type of quote-unquote report cards. I think we've all seen those come in the mail sometime, used more as a hammer than a carrot. So the way this will be said, it's going to assess votes, but it'll also get into more subjective things like who authors bills, who works behind the scenes to either help good bills or hinder bills that are bad for our constituents. A lot of things like that. And because some of this will be subjective data, what we're going to do is try and mitigate that by allowing the legislators' representatives to see what we put together, the almost final work product, and allow them to have a time to comment and add written comments that might further clarify that before we take a final pass at it. I think the end result then will be released to the full mayors and council members' membership and is open to the public. And whoever is recognized as the hardest working, best legislator of the year will get a press release and recognition at mayors and council members. There will be no putting people in order or ranking of the remainder, and there will be no worst legislator of the year, which really made a lot of legislators smile when we said that around the table. They're glad that wasn't going to happen. We got positive feedback. One of the board members from Conservation Action was there actually, and they're revamping their report card. I believe we might not see it this year, and he said he likes this approach, and it's going to actually bring it back to his board. So good news. We'll see if that's helpful in us making sure we get the results we want to see happen in Sacramento.
Are you ready now, John?
Yes, sort of, sorry.
Okay. That's okay.
I had forgotten something.
That's all right.
Really, the only thing I have to report out on is just the ongoing discussion that we've been having at Sonoma County Ag and Open Space District meetings related to the Vital Lands Initiative, which thank you for announcing the one meeting coming up in Petaluma. There are other meetings if people are interested throughout the county. I think there's 5 total meetings coming up, mostly in October. And I believe in the November Board of Supervisors meeting is when we'll bring the first draft to them for their review and input. So these public meetings are important. It's like the city's general plan. These are these long-term vision documents that we're putting together, and the district has done just some really amazing things countywide and how much ag lands they've been able to preserve. We're starting some, for not a pun here, but seed farms for young farmers who can't really afford a lot of property, and so we have smaller parcels where they can actually get those, lease them, and raise some crops on them, and hopefully from that point they can make enough money to then maybe move on up a step. So that, and of course the open space that's been preserved, and then transferring the properties over to agencies like, say, Sonoma County Regional Parks or state parks, but mostly the regional parks, to then have public access on those, which I think is critical. So, so those things are all moving forward at a lightning pace, as a matter of fact. So more to come in the next couple of months.
That's all? Okay, thank you. Well, I attended the League of California Cities annual conference, and the two items that we discussed both ultimately ended up passing, but they got amended by the policy committees, and then they were amended again at the resolutions committee. That was a very, very spirited discussion about that. It was a little bit more helpful to find out really what was going on there. I think that the changes to the two resolutions that were made were appropriate. There was a little bit of negotiation that went on, as far as the determining the suitability for use. They really wanted to consider not just the last criminal conviction, but the whole look at what happened with a person, because what was happening was people were being let out, based upon just the last conviction, and they needed to look at that. There was that big giant list of things that was in the original one we saw. They pulled out that list because they had in there, in the penal code section 667.5, most of those things were already in there. So they pulled that out, and they added some that were what they viewed as violent, but were not in that penal code, and they were things, rape of an unconscious or drugged person, assault with a deadly weapon or instrument on a peace officer, firefighter, or other person, discharge of a firearm at an inhabited dwelling, vehicle, or aircraft, throwing acid or flammable substances with intent to injure or disfigure, escape from state prison by use of force or violence, assault taking of a hostage committed by an inmate of a state prison, and a lot of discussion about this one that ultimately got added this way: human trafficking involving minors or commercially sexually exploited children. So that ended up passing with a bunch of those changes. And then the other item on the emergency services, that one was also an interesting discussion, and one change was made to that, and I think for our city it was a good change that was made, because we don't per se have our own fire department. It's a special district. It came to light that some of the cities also contract with private companies for their fire services or emergency service, and some actually contract with counties. So they added, including cities that have contracted for emergency medical services with counties or public or private entities, to kind of cover all of that, because it was brought up by some of the folks that they felt like, well, this really was only applicable to a city that had, their own emergency services. So with those changes, they were approved, but the discussion was very, very interesting on that. I attended a lot of sessions with a lot of good information, a lot of stuff going on. attended they asked that we go over to the state capitol, and one of the initiatives that we had wanted, that sent a letter on 649, they asked us all to go over there, and we kind of gathered as a group there. That was very interesting. And that's all I have to say about that. And then this week I attended the Sonoma County Waste Management Agency meeting, and by request of Santa Rosa, we are extending the composting RFP a little bit longer. Santa Rosa is trying to work, they have some property out there by the treatment facility, and they're also trying to look at composting out there. So our timeline was running a little bit shorter, and a lot of the vendors are the same vendors, and so they kind of want to do things in concert. So because of their timeline, and they started a little bit later, they're asking for questions to be back for both the Waste Management Agency and Santa Rosa by 11/13 and January 16th for the RFP proposals to come back to both the Waste Management Agency and Santa Rosa. So got delayed, but you know, sometimes we have to wait for things. I think we'll get some good proposals on that. So more to come on that. And that's all I have to report. So, public comment on non-action agenda items. George.
I'd like to speak on the city manager's report and also on a possible future agenda item. Damien said tonight that our channel, cable channel 26, includes our Cotati City Council meetings, and I beg to differ. I've watched that channel many times and never seen any advertisement on there for our city council meetings. I've looked at the schedule, and I'd like a contact person who I can contact personally and get that information from, because as I see it, I never see anything there, which makes me want to ask that I think we need our own channel. There's 1,000 channels or so available on cable, on Comcast. Surely they can give us one. By law, they're supposed to give us one, that we can have our own billboards running. All the events that are running, all your outreach, your council meetings, your design review should be on our own channel. We shouldn't have to share it with anybody. So I'd like a further report on this, and I'd like a personal contact, Damien, to me, so I can double check this, because this is going on way too long. Mayor, I would also ask you if you would file an ethics complaint against Mr. Moore for his profanity at the last meeting. I'm tired of filing these complaints only to see them being thrown in the garbage. It's clear, it's on tape, he used profanity, and it's a violation of Section 5 of your Code of Conduct. His conduct was not above reproach, it was down in the gutter. And it's on there for all of us to see. Someone needs to finally, after 10 years of this fiasco, file an ethics complaint. Also, regarding the charging stations, you know, I came and asked about the charging stations at the last meeting, and I want to thank Mr. Moore for bringing this to my attention, but why would you wait for me to come back again, not having an answer, to forcibly ask the question again? You could have asked Damien to give me a call, say, George, we are charging, come down and see the system for yourself, but no, there's this lack of communication. You should be contacting Damien. He can contact me and supply us citizens with the information. We don't want to embarrass you unfairly. If you have answers and reasonable answers, the public wants to hear them. You can use your phone and use your email. Now, at the last meeting, we adjourned the meeting, and on the way out, Vicki Parker made a snide remark to me that, indeed, you had a signature from Bert Lathrop on that letter. And I said, hey, you contact him. It's none of my business anymore. Now to find out that the signature for the letter was not Mr. Lathrop's, it was somebody else. And I'm doing an apology. I'm acting as a public citizen here and participating in the system. You adjourn the meeting, I walk out, and I got city staff still barking at me. What the hell's going on? An apology is in order. She made a mistake, evidently. I was right, and I'm doing an apology. It's not a big deal. Just do things right. It doesn't have to be this way. We have means of communication. Let's use them.
Thank you. Lori?
This is also on Damien's report. One thing, and this may be my settings for Nixle, but seems to have been, I expect from Nixle anything that's urgent, the heat emergency, or that I'm getting more things like balanced budget and not information that's not needed. Maybe there's just a police urgent setting, but I don't see it. But I don't think it's appropriate to send out so many nixles about the recreation program or all that. It needs to be kept so that due urgency. And your response to the heat emergency earlier, you had the police station lobby. Who wants to go sit in the police station lobby? Rona Park had the whole community center. I think you guys need to have a better plan on that, on any heat emergencies. I have heat intolerance, so I'm one that might be using it. The other, I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. Before I forget, I want to thank Vicki Parker. She's helping me with my paralegal homework this week. I have medical marijuana and recreation, the law going into effect in January 18, so she's going to send me your presentation. So she's helping me with a lot of work this week. And I think that's it. I can't remember my last one. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Anybody else wishing to speak on this item? Seeing none, I will close public comment. I thought that the heat emergency area, I thought it was the community room in the police station, not the lobby. Okay, that I thought, well, maybe I read it wrong, but it's that whole community room in there.
It was the community room.
Okay.
And it was over the weekend, and that facility staffed, so that's why.
Okay, so it wasn't the lobby, it was that whole room that well, there's staff in there, so, okay, yes.
Yeah, I agree. Glad that's much better. The lobby isn't much room. But the community room, that's pretty good size, and I can guarantee the air conditioner works well over there. So, and with this heat, we could all use it. So a couple of things. First of all, I was asked, or we were asked in general, why we didn't illuminate one of our speakers regarding the issue of charging with the chargers over here. Personally, I thought everybody kind of knew that, and I didn't see the need to embarrass anybody by pointing that out. It's not a big thing, so there's that. But I do want to say I was here at the end of the meeting, and from my personal perspective and perception at least, I did not see Ms. Parker behave snidely or do any barking for that matter either. She did mention to you, as you started to walk out of the building, I heard her say, oh no, we sent registered letters, we got them back signed, and you kind of just kept walking. I couldn't quite hear what you said, but it was essentially, not now, I'm not going to hear it now. So I didn't see any snide. I think that was just basically a city worker giving you some information you had kind of requested from my perspective. So I just want to put another way of looking at that out to the public here. So with that, I think that covers. Other than Nixle, I would be curious, is that a general public forum, or is it supposed to be kind of an emergency thing? You know, I wouldn't want us increasing the signal-to-noise ratio, but I'm not that familiar with what Nixle's real purpose is supposed to be at this point.
It's a community messaging system. It has several categories of messages, from critical messages to informational messages to traffic messages. If you go into the program, they're categorized that way.
So you can't set it up so you just get the critical stuff? Because I could see how somebody wouldn't want to get a lot of day-to-day stuff sometimes.
From a user perspective, I'd have to look into whether the user can filter it, like pre-filter it like that. But I know from the agency side, you select what type of message it is so that the user receives it as either a critical or a informational or traffic alert, or, you know.
So they're filtered as to level of severity, emergency-ness, if you will. Good.
From the agency perspective, and that's how they're pushed out.
That's better. Certainly with everything in the internet today, we could use whatever filtering we can get, so that's helpful. Thank you.
Mr. Lehman, I just want these communications on the record. That's all I'm asking. That's all I'm asking.
Okay,
Through the chair, we're not having a discussion now, you're out of order, but thank you
Okay.
for that.
thank you. Okay, information received after agenda was posted. I believe you gave us a copy of Ms. Altman's letter. And with that, if no one has any other items of business, I will adjourn this meeting at 8:15.
I was going to say something since you brought it up, but out of